All right. Well, first it's nice like getting to speak with you, not only because you attended Westfield, but you also played football at Westfield, and it's always a pleasure. Um, just I wanted was what was the environment like on the field and off the field at Westfield for you?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and it is an honor for me to be able to meet you and speak with you. And I can guarantee you that I get a bigger kick out of this than you do. And the reason I say that is because, right, I've been where you're at, and I can tell you that you can achieve whatever you can achieve if you put your mind to it. I know everybody, right? All young people hear that from guys like me and other people. But I am telling you that if I was able to do what I did in my career, there's no doubt that you can do what you put your mind to. So to answer your question, so right, I went to the mid '80s. Was a great time to be in Massachusetts. There were a lot of summer jobs for kids, right? College kids. Westfield. I transferred to Westfield from Central Connecticut after my freshman year, and it was the best decision I've ever made. It was fantastic. We had a lot of fun. The atmosphere was fantastic because everybody who was at Westfield was there to go to school. You know, football was a secondary thing, basically, and that's one of the reasons I left. I left Central. Right at that time, Central was a Division II school, and it was the atmosphere was different. You know, and don't get me wrong. I love football. I love competing. But I knew that I was not going to make a career out of football, maybe in coaching. But you know, I wanted to study criminal justice. Central didn't have that, so I went to Westfield.
And what made you want to go into the criminal justice field?
So one day I was at eating in the cafeteria at Central Connecticut with my roommate Doug Howe. Doug Howe's dad was at the time was a New York City police detective. And by the way, I still talk to Doug Howe regularly today, right? We were roommates in 1984. It's 2020. So, right, we still talk to this day. So Dougie and I were sitting, it was after practice. We were sitting at the caf by the windows. We look outside and these black sedans pull up outside. And all these dudes get out in suits and shades and they had earpieces on, right? And I go, who is this? And we look outside and all of a sudden this old dude gets out of the car and we look and it was former President Jimmy Carter coming to visit Central. And the guys that look really cool with the earpieces on with the shades were all Secret Service agents. And I said, Dougie, that's what I want to do. And he went back to the room. I literally went to the library and checked out every single book I could on the Secret Service. It was a total of 2. But from then on, that's what I wanted to do. And I wanted to be a Secret Service agent. That's what I wanted to do. And there was no criminal justice at Central. And so after my freshman year, I applied and then I transferred to Westfield.
You said you always wanted to be a Secret Service agent, but when you first transferred over to Westfield for the criminal justice program, did you, like throughout the courses, did you think that you would become part of the ATF?
No, so I mean, you know, you sit in class and right, that's what you want to do, right? That's your goal. And so, you know, you think, first of all, back then there was no internet, right? So everything, any research that you had to do, you had to go to the library, or you had to find someone, either a cop or a federal agent who could tell you about, who was who and what's what. So, it's not you, right? You go to the internet, you can use your phone from anywhere in the world and find anything you want, right? So, you always think, well, this is what I want to do. First of all, you think, hey, am I good enough to get in? Am I smart enough to get in? Am I lucky enough to get in, right? I didn't know anybody, right? I didn't know anybody at any federal agency. The only cops that I knew were my hometown cops, right? That was, I'm thinking now as a sophomore when I first got there, by the time I was a senior, I knew cops that were former teammates of mine at Westfield. But, I still didn't know anybody. I took the state police test. I took some other police tests and all that stuff. But so no, I mean, I was just a criminal justice student learning about, the industry, and different agencies and stuff like that. And I remember specifically when we were learning about different federal agencies and what ATF did, I was afraid. I was like, yeah, there's no way that I'm going to join these guys, because these guys, all they do is go after bad guys with guns or bombs, And I said, yeah, I don't think I want to do that. That's when, when I was, at Westfield. And lo and behold, I end up doing, 30 and a half years with ATF doing precisely that, right? Going after bad guys with guns and bombs.
Now, what made you want to go over to the West Coast? Were there not as many opportunities this way, or?
So when I graduated from Westfield, my first real job as an adult, I was a part-time coach at Western New England College, right? I was a defensive backs coach at Winnick. A guy named Mike Krawick, who was my defensive back coach at Westfield, he became the head coach at Winnick. And Coach Krawick called me during the summer and he goes, hey, what are you doing? I said, nothing. What are you planning to do in the fall? I said, I have no idea. And he says, well, can you come up and help me coach? So that's what I did. And when I did that, I was, applying to different police departments and stuff like that. So when the season was over, one of my teammates, Bob Hartnett from Norwood, he was working for a company called First Security. And it was a private security company that did investigations. So Bob got me on with First Security. And so after that football season at Winnick, I did that for about 8 months. And then former Westfield coach Jack Murdoch called me. And he says, hey, I need a defensive backs coach. And at that point in my life, I think I wanted to get back into coaching. So I went back up to Westfield part-time. And I had made a little money at First Security. So I had some money in the bank. So I went back to Westfield and I coached again. And I thought, okay, this is what I want to do. Another teammate, Bobby Earhart, at that time was coaching at Saginaw Valley State in Michigan. And so, I was working with Bobby. I was working with another guy that I grew up with in Watertown by the name of John Pappas. And John was a coach as well. And John was, trying to, he was hooking me up with different internships for different colleges and stuff like that. And then I decided one day that me and my friend, Brian Harvey, another Westfield grad who I grew up with, it was cold December snowstorm. And we were sitting in a bar in Watertown and we looked at each other and said, hey, what are we doing here? Let's drive down to Florida for the winter and see what happens. So Brian and I got in the car. We drove down to Florida. We stayed with my brother's girlfriend at the time. My brother was in the Coast Guard in Florida. And Brian started applying for teaching jobs. I started applying for police jobs. And ATF was the first to call for an interview. And the funny thing about that is when I went to get an application, the guy who answered the door at the ATF Fort Lauderdale office was a guy named Dale Armstrong, who was from Chelmsford. He graduated from Westfield in 1985. So a lot of Dale's friends were still at Westfield when I was at Westfield. And I didn't know Dale, he didn't know me, but when he answered the door, he had that strong Boston accent. At that time, I had that strong Boston accent, so we started talking. And, oh, yeah, he says, oh, yeah, you from Boston? Yeah, same thing. Where'd you go to school? I went to Westfield. And that was it. And Dale's the guy that brought me into ATF.
Wow. That's cool. Small world.
Crazy, right? I mean, and you think about how many people apply and right, for every 1,000 people that apply, less than 100 get on.
Yeah.
So it's ultra competitive. And frankly, and I think about this all the time, especially now that I'm retired. What I'm telling you, and Dale will tell you the same thing. If Dale didn't answer the door, I would have just been sent down the road, right? Knowing what I know now about, right, being at ATF and especially in Fort Lauderdale, right? Those guys were so busy, right? They just would have handed me application and fill it out. And right, that would have sat in a pile with thousands, right?
Yeah.
It just, by luck, I don't know, all the stars that aligned, but Dale was the guy that happened to answer the door, and he walked me through the process.
What were some of the common cases that you saw and worked with?
So most of the cases that we work at ATF are firearms, arson cases, bombing cases. Most of my career I spent working in a task force with state and local agencies, mostly violent crime cases, right? Bad guys with guns, using guns to do robberies, to protect their dope trade, those types of cases.
Oh, okay. And would you say Westfield courses prepared you somewhat for ATF in some way?
Yeah, I mean, and when I went to the academy, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the reading material, a lot of the things that they were talking about wasn't new to me, right? That was all covered in my CJ classes. So the terms, police terms or law terms that they were using, that I heard that stuff before. So I wasn't starting on the ground floor. I thought I had a pretty good base of knowledge and understood what all that stuff meant.
What are some things you won't forget about Westfield State that always stick with you?
Oh man, there are a lot of things, right? The friendships, my teammates, Elijah, I took full advantage of things that a young 19, 20 to 23-year-old young guy does in college, right? I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed every aspect of my college experience. Let's put it that way.
Would there be anything that you want to redo or do different?
No, I mean, I don't know. That's a tough question. Something different in my career?
Yes, with your ATF, it could be ATF, starting your criminal justice career, football, anything.
Football wise, right? And football wise, I always think about this. I wish I had lifted more weights, right? I wish I had done more squats because, right, squats make you faster.
Yeah.
If I had to do it all over again, I would have practiced with the track team just to be faster, because I always think Look, I'm gonna tell you this right now, right? I'm 55 years old, right? I still dream about playing football.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, environment wise, what do you find more interesting about being over there in the West Coast? Do you like miss anything about being in Mass? Or
Right. So yeah, so get back to your question. How did I end up on the West Coast? So when I got hired by ATF, I was hired in Fort Lauderdale, and I thought I was going to stay in Fort Lauderdale. Um, and one of the reasons I got hired by ATF was because they needed native Spanish speakers, right? ATF didn't have a lot back then, and I think we have probably just as many now, probably even less, which is a shame. Right after 30 years. Maybe we can talk about that in another conversation. But so that's how I got hired, under a program that they were looking for native Spanish speakers. So I thought I was going to stay in Fort Lauderdale. Um, it happened that they were opening a brand new office in a place called Yakima, Washington, right, which is between Seattle and Spokane. It's a rural agricultural place, very violent place, and they needed a Spanish speaker. And um, the special agent in charge of Seattle, a guy named Chris Nelson at the time, and the special in charge of Miami, a guy named Bob Creighton. They were friends, and Chris told Mr. Creighton, "Hey, I'm looking for a Spanish speaker. The people I've interviewed, I'm really not big on. I'm looking for somebody. Do you have anybody?" And he goes, "Yeah, I just interviewed this Puerto Rican kid from Boston. I'm going to hire him." And Chris says, "Well, can you hire him, send him to Yakima?" And that's how I ended up on the West Coast as an ATF agent. And then from there, I was transferred down to Los Angeles. So I started out in Yakima, worked as a street agent in Los Angeles, got transferred to Miami, worked as a street agent there. After 9/11, I got transferred to Puerto Rico, right? So that was the first 15 years of my career. I got promoted and I went to be a supervisor in St. Louis. I did that for 4 years. And then a friend of mine who was in ATF headquarters wanted me to go work for him at ATF headquarters. I didn't want to do that. And so Mexico City came open. So I went to Mexico City, and that counted as headquarters time. So I was promoted in Mexico. And then after my time in Mexico, I lateraled over to be the assistant special agent in charge of the Phoenix Field Division, which covers the states of Arizona and New Mexico. And I got promoted again, and that's when I became a special agent in charge of the ATF Los Angeles Field Division, which covers half the state of California. So the ATF LA Field Division covers an area the size basically from Boston to DC. It's a huge area.
wow.
And then I lateraled over as a special agent in charge of the Miami Field Division, which covers South Florida, Puerto Rico, and the Caribbean. And then I got promoted and I went to be the Deputy Assistant Director of all ATF national programs. And so I did that for about 14, 15 months. And then I lateraled over and I became the Deputy Assistant Director for ATF Field Operations West. So I covered an area from basically Oklahoma to Guam. And I had responsible for about 1,000 people. About 800 of those were ATF special agents. And then at the very end of my career, my father-in-law got sick and my wife wanted to come back to LA to help her mom take care of her dad. So ATF was nice enough to transfer me back to Los Angeles. And that's how I ended up doing my second stint as the special agent in charge of the LA Field Division. And I think I'm the only guy in ATF history to be a two-time special agent in charge of the ATF Los Angeles Field Division.
Oh, that's a great achievement right there.
lucky, right?
Yeah.
I've been lucky, man. It's not, I've always, right? I mean, we're preparation and opportunity, right? Intersect. But I've been fortunate. Uh, I've always been fortunate in my ATF career.
Now, would you say that was the best, achieving that was the best moment of your career, or
No, you
what
know,
would
it's
you
funny.
consider the best?
I don't know. I mean, that's just, and since I've retired, I've only been retired a few months. You know, I think, I don't know. I think my best achievement is I did it with integrity, you know, not, I made a lot of mistakes, you know, and some days I was the best ATF agent in history, and some days I was the worst ATF agent in history. But I tell you what, every day I showed up, I swung the bat, and I tried to work within the system, and did things with integrity. Um, and, you know, when I think about, you know, I don't, when I think about things now, looking at back in my career, I don't, the cases are the cases, right? You know, the things that I remember the most is my relationships and my friendships that I've built with the people I met. You know, I you know, think about guys, you know, my friends' weddings or their divorces or them having kids or, um, you know, it's just sharing and personal stuff uh, with the people I met, right? I mean, you develop a strong bond with the people you work with because your life depends on them, right? And their life depends on you. So,
Yeah.
right, you become extremely tight with these people, and then you share in their successes, and then you share in their sorrows. You know, when you know they lose a parent or they lose a loved one and stuff like that, it's hurts you just as much as it hurts them. Or when something good happens, right? You
Yeah.
celebrate in their success. So, there's not one thing that I'm proud that I did things with integrity.
I know you said you guys always do things together, like you rely on one another, just like football. But like, are
Yep.
there other things that football has taught you that you carried over to the workforce?
Oh, absolutely. Right. You know, just all I did when I got to ATF was you know, I just traded teammates, right? Traded my, I just had new teammates.
Yeah.
And so it's the same concept, right? I mean, you're accountable. You have to be accountable to your teammates, right? You have to be accountable to your team, to the organization, right? Being prepared, being on time, being a good teammate, right? It's not about you, it's about the team,
Yes.
right? It's about the organization, right? It's right. Their goals are first, right? Your goals are secondary, right? Not quitting, never quit. Doesn't matter how bad things get, never quit. But yeah, so all that stuff carried over, all that stuff when I found myself in a tight position, right? All that stuff came through, right? Being prepared, practicing, right? Knowing your opponent, knowing their tendencies, right?
Yeah.
Being a student of the game. All those things uh, transfer over into life, and they specifically transfer over, in my opinion, into law enforcement. Here's the deal. Law enforcement needs more people that look like you than anybody else, right?
Yes.
So you see all the stuff that's going on in the news, right? Don't let that discourage you,
Yeah.
right? If we're going to get this right, we need more Elijahs to apply and to become cops or federal agents.
Yes.
We need that now more than ever before. Okay.
And that's true. And I've been looking into that as well, because even though I'm on my last year, I recently tore my ACL, so I'm coming back for an extra year.
Yep.
So I thought if I'm coming back for an extra year, I might as well make it count. And instead of taking little classes that don't matter or anything, get all my major classes out of the way and either double minor or double major. I was looking into, because I'm a psych minor right now and a sociology major, and I was looking into becoming a criminal justice minor as well, just to have some type of say in the criminal justice system. Like me, myself, I want to be involved to try and help the system as much as I can.
Yeah.
So that's been something I've been looking into.
You know, the great thing is, right, it doesn't matter if you have a criminal justice degree or not, right? As long as you have a degree, right, that's your ticket in, right?
Now, seeing how you've moved up in the ATF and have created all these achievements and milestones and things like that is making me want to go into criminal justice even more. Because at first I would see it as, like I'm not into it, because I want to help people. That's why I'm going into sociology. I want to help people, children, but like there's other ways I can also help people. It's not just those ways. And you helped me realize that even more now, noticing how whether you were involved in the gunfire, ATF cases and all that stuff, you're still helping people in society and all around the world. And that's something I would like to do as well.
I tell you what, public service is a good thing, right? When none of us are going to become millionaires, right? If you want to be in law enforcement, it's a good living, right? Depending on, you get paid pretty good as a federal agent, right? But I always laugh, right? They're not, when you're sitting at a front door and bullets are coming through the front door, right? You say to yourself, they're not paying me enough money to do this. Yeah. But that doesn't happen every day. But I tell you what, I wish I could wake up tomorrow and be 25 years old again and start all over and do it again, because I would do it, right? And so I can't do that anymore. But what I can do is I can help the Elijahs of the world to do it, and I can live vicariously through them, Yeah. And look, here's the deal, right? I mean, I have to pay it forward. Dale Armstrong, right? I'm sitting in my house, right? I'm looking around. Everything I have, everything that I'm looking at, to include the clothes that I'm wearing, right? Everything that I have is because I was an ATF agent. That's how I made my living, right? That wouldn't have happened if I didn't know Dale Armstrong, right? I think I'm the first ex-ATF agent that you've ever met, right?
Yeah.
So my job to pay it forward is to help you and guys like you, right, get into law enforcement, get into public service. So anything I can do, right, you can get my number real easy, and we need to stay in contact. And right, my job is to do anything I can, make any phone call I can to help you achieve what you want to achieve.
I appreciate you so much, not just for giving me information about your career and your lifestyle, but offering your guidance and help to me, not just me, but everyone like me and everyone at Westfield State. And I appreciate it so much because you helped me open my eyes and realize things I never realized before, and drawing me new interests. And I just want to thank you for that, and I want to appreciate you for that.
Well, and hey, man, like I said, right, I get more out of this than you do, and I appreciate you. You're making my day. And you and I, we're brothers now, right? Yes, I were number 5. You were number 5, right? We're gonna have that bond forever. So wear it with pride, man.